Kathy, I just want to say hello. No, how many do we need for quorum? 11. Okay, well, I- maybe I could deputize a few that are in the audience. Well, I'm going to guess we'll end up with the quorum, and we have one thing to vote on. I don't know if legally we should start without it, but I think we have an awful lot of information to cover, and maybe if at least we can do some introductions, and I have a few announcements this evening, so maybe we could start with that, and then hopefully we'll have someone straggle in to be our 11th. So why don't we go ahead and I'll call the meeting to order for September 17th, 2015, the Emergency Services Council meeting. And if we could just have a roll call, please.
Atherton, Belmont,
David Bronstein.
Brisbane, Burlingame, Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto, Foster City, Half Moon Bay, Hillsborough, Menlo Park, Millbrae, Pacifica, Portola Valley, Redwood City, San Bruno,
Rico Medina.
San Carlos, San Mateo, South San Francisco, Woodside, County of San Mateo.
Okay, before we get started, I'd like to do at least one introduction. There's a gentleman here from the airport, Doug Yakel, am I pronouncing that correctly? He is going to be working with us in an advisory role. He's the public information officer, I believe, from the airport, and we appreciate your being here, and we look forward to working with you in the coming years. So thank you. Do you want to say a little something?
Thank you. Just appreciate the introduction. I look forward to working with the council moving forward. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much. And then I have some bittersweet news. We have 3 people that are here on the council that this will likely be their last meeting unless we can twist their arm and do a recall of whoever runs for their seat. But Jack is going to be leaving from San Mateo. He is termed out. I understand Terry is leaving from Burlingame and Dave is leaving from Belmont. So these are some stalwarts here with the council who have done a great job over the years helping us dig through the things we need to dig through to change some really important things that we were doing with the JPA and make us stronger over time. So one, I want to thank all of you for your time and service over the last years. I know some of you have been on for a very long time. And I know, I'm sure the captain will say some words too, but I know that Rico would like to say a few words also.
Thank you. I just very quickly want to say and thank Terry, Jack, and Dave, who I've been here meeting with ever since I became a member when I was first elected. I have the utmost respect and appreciation for the work that you've done, not only here at the county level and on this body, with the finances and the other aspects that you give into your cities. I know that you're going to enjoy your time back with your families, but I know still active in the community. So personally, I'll miss you. Please come back. You can sit right out there and tell us how to do things. But I do wish you the very best and want to thank you personally for all the efforts and the work that you do and have done.
Thank you, Rico. Yes, Sue?
I've been on here since my full terms, and I really appreciate all the hard work you folks have done, very much so. Thank you.
This will also be my last meeting, as I'm not running for re-election in Woodside after
goodness.
8 years is
Wow, that's
self-imposed term limit.
And I apologize. I didn't know that. It's
okay.
I want to exclude.
Anybody else leaving that we don't know about? I have another year and a half, so no, you're stuck with me for another year. Okay, well, I tell you what, we don't have a formal meeting, but I think there's enough information I think all of us would like to hear about, so why don't we go ahead and hear the information, and then if another person comes, we can always go back to, and start all over again. So we're not going to approve the minutes. There's no action on the consent agenda, but there is an operational area report and an annual report from Captain Kernan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council. It's a pleasure to be in front of you this evening. Just 2 items worth attention on attachment A. One is search and rescues. We've had 16 this quarter alone. Our search and rescue teams are volunteer teams assigned to the Sheriff's Emergency Services Bureau, and they have been very active, and most of their deployments have been outside the county, going down to Santa Cruz on the search for the missing girl, and up to Marin counties and as far as Yosemite and Lake Tahoe. So I'd just like to publicly credit them for their service of volunteerism and for making, and they've actually found a lot of these missing folks, whether they're Alzheimer's patients, lost hikers, or children. So big credit goes to our search and rescue. Secondly, our hazmat team has been more busy than usual this quarter, and Chief Thrasher is here, and he can talk a little bit more about that, but they've had a busy quarter as well. And that's all I have to report on attachment A.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the captain? Okay, hearing none, we'll go into some old business. The Skylon radio tower lease update. Tom Myers? Our favorite topic.
Good evening, again. Tom Myers, for those of you who don't know me, in the ISD, I'm the wireless manager. There's a little brief history in your package. This project's been going on since 2012, crawling very slowly in all aspects. I was here last June 18th, getting a final official approval of the funds necessary to continue moving forward. We have developed the updated contract with Strobel, who is our primary contractor, and we also are in the process of finishing the paperwork to bring the Skylon official lease to the County Board of Supervisors for their final approval also. The project has moved forward a little bit. Skylon has finished the grading of the general area and the sites, but Verizon and their subcontractor NSA have not completed their permits within our county planning department in order to move forward to put in the final road and the electrical that those two components are required before we can even start doing our work. So we continue to ping these folks weekly and try to push them along. But at the moment, from the June 18th meeting, I had hoped they'd have their permits by August. And here we are in mid-September, and they still haven't finished the permits. So we continue to interact with them the best that they will cooperate. They're not, neither Verizon or their subcontractor is very responsive to our requests for timelines and commitments. So we just continue the quest to push the project along. Questions?
Okay, any questions? Yes, Sue.
So it's just that they don't seem to be responsive. There's not a holdup because of something with the permit issue with the county?
That I'm aware of, they applied to the planning department. They got questions from the planning department a month ago. They have not responded back to planning with answers to those questions. I don't see, from my experience, that they should have any problem getting permits to do the work, especially since North Star, the people who own the property, want this done. So I don't think there's any kind of pushback from North Star. So
Through the chair, is there something we can do? I mean, now it's 2012. If we have El Nino, everything's going to go. I have no idea what's going on.
Yes, so now that I hear it's with our planning department, it sounds like it's in Verizon's hands, but at the same time, perhaps we can do a little work behind the scenes with our planning department to see if we can talk with Verizon and move that along.
okay, maybe they can take a proactive approach of
Well,
trying
because
to
I'd
get
like to
the
see what it
answers.
is they need from them and how critical that is in holding up what we're trying to do. I mean, if
Yeah.
if it's critical, obviously I understand that, but if it's not, you know, if it's minor little things, we need to keep it moving and get it done. So I'll look into that.
Okay,
Yes, please.
any
So-
other questions?
Yeah, question, will this affect the bottom line? Or could this, in terms of how much money? We've already added money to the budget, and so I'm concerned about that issue as well.
In my opinion, at the moment, no. I believe we're still within some reasonable window. A substantial part of that increase was the 2 or 3 years of delay. The cost of the materials went up some, but it was a lot of that was the delay of the project being perpetually postponed. So at the moment, I think we're just fine. And as they better define the scope of work from their side and give prep the environment and our sites, each step we will have a clearer vision of exactly, you know, how much each portion is going to cost and if anything was going to change.
Tom, can you leave your number with Captain Kernan so I can get that, so I can get back to you when I talk to planning?
He knows me well.
I'm sure he does. He probably already has the number, but great. Thank you so much.
I would like to offer, if there are any changes, based off of the previous agreements that we've had, that the Sheriff's Office assist ISD with further negotiations, like we did a few years ago when Chris Flatmo and Mark Weiss had to intervene to get some traction on this project. And if it continues to stagnate and change, I think we need to consider other options.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Item number 2 is the San Francisco International Airport JPA ESC update. Captain Kernan?
Good evening. As previously discussed, we are in conversations. Things are positive with the airport. There is a discussion regarding drafting an MOU between the county and the airport, and that will speak to reimbursements for services rendered. They're in conversation with our county manager's office and persons from the county manager's office. It's in the early stages of communication. and there's some further negotiations that need to be worked out. But it is promising that we are in conversation, and we have exchanged information in regards to a cost analysis that we would like to see for reimbursement, and then they're replying with what they would be offering. So I think there's a little more discussion, a little more work that needs to be done, but it is positive. I'd also like to reintroduce Doug Yackel. He is the PIO for the San Francisco Airport, and he will be the face and spokesperson that will attend these meetings starting this evening moving forward, so that he could also be a resource for us if we do have any questions regarding airport operations, and then regarding the administrative decisions, that's going to be probably between the county manager's office and the airport director's office.
Thank you, and I can confirm that I've actually been in some meetings regarding this, and it looks like we really are making some positive progress, and hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have something to share with you. So it is sort of coming together. We had to have our finance director come through with some costs and things like that, so we know what, there will not be an actual seat on this board, but it will be some agreements between the county for some reimbursement for some of the costs of response. So we're not quite there, but we're making some great progress. So I'm very pleased with that. Jack?
So an MOU is sort of a way of working around this, it seems, so that in a way funds would be provided to the JPA, but it's really not, isn't it really mutual aid that's being rendered, and it's going to be rendered mostly by San Bruno and Millbrae and South City. And so I'm wondering, how does that work with them? I mean, is there an issue at all? Am I clear about what I'm trying?
There's two disciplines that are primarily affected: EMS with the ambulance service, and fire with the fire apparatus that's deployed to support the alerts that come into the airport. And that would be another conversation on if we do receive reimbursement, where that reimbursement would go. Would it go to the ambulance JPA, to the fire service, or back to the Emergency Services Council here for training and support of cities? We're not at that phase yet. We're still in the negotiation phase to see if we can seek reimbursement and if that will happen. Presently, we are asking for reimbursement for responses to the airport, and we're receiving some acknowledgement that they would like to reimburse us for transports from the airport, which is a little different than what we're asking for. So we're still in the negotiation phase on what they consider reimbursement compared to what we're asking for.
What's transport?
An example would be if an ambulance was dispatched to the airport for medical aid, and the ambulance it was settled at scene, or they treated at scene, or the ambulance was canceled at scene, and then they went back in service, that would not be a reimbursable event. If the ambulance were to transport a patient from the airport to a hospital, and that patient was considered to be an uninsured patient, they would be willing to negotiate for reimbursement. So we're still in those areas of negotiations.
Well, that sounds good. At least it seems like we're making progress, and you're trying to figure out a workaround so that the goal ultimately would be to have San Francisco participate here, at least have a representative. Maybe they might not be a voting member, but and then somehow also that the dues that we all pay as cities might be defrayed somewhat by them joining in some, contributing to the fund which funds OES. So Emergency Services Council, that is. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also add, at the end of the day, whether it comes to us or it comes to the ambulance JPA or it comes to some kind of training for the cities, at the end of the day, the benefit still comes back to the cities and the Emergency Service Council in some way, shape, or form. So depending on how we work it, it still will be to the benefit of the cities and the county. So I think we'll get there. I'm very confident we'll get there. Okay, if no other questions, we'll move on to new business, the EMA update. Battalion Chief Euchner. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. Emma continues to move forward with the hard work of our working groups. We have some working groups within the Emma group. I'll start sharing those working groups with you with future meetings. But we're always looking for more participants from the public and the private sector to establish those networks and relationships that will be needed when the event occurs. So please spread the word among your organizations if you could. Last week, Emma members participated with OES to review the RFPs for the local hazard mitigation plan development. So we met and came up with a recommendation. And as you know, the development, review, and approval of that local hazard mitigation plan, it's on an accelerated timeline, which we all plan on meeting. So I wanted to also throw in there with the many fires in the state that are going on right now, there's been a request for help in the Lake County EOC with trained personnel. So San Mateo, OES, and Emma were able to offer up several folks to go up there and help them out from the different cities in the county to assist as the crisis unfolds. And then in closing, I wanted to share with you that in the Chinese language, the word crisis is composed of two characters. I'm sure some of you have heard this before, but one of the characters represents danger, but the other one represents opportunity. So the reason I bring this up is with these fires and the danger around us and the request for help from Lake County, I would encourage you to embrace these opportunities when your city personnel are asked to go up and help. I think we'll get a great return from that from the experience and the lessons learned from these disasters. So if you have that opportunity, please encourage your cities to help out. So that's all I got. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Just to go back into time, we now have a quorum. Thank you very much. I thought maybe the bells and whistles would all come on if you, oh, I'm sure. So maybe we'll just take a pause for a moment and go back to the minutes of June 18th. And if everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at them, I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second on the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved and we are actually a formal body. So we'll move on to item number 4 with the OES Battalion Chief Report.
Yeah, we're official.
Or not?
Good evening. Battalion Chief Dave Pucci is presently deployed to the Butte Fire in Amador County. He's on the fire line today. I spoke with him this morning. He asked if Bart Spencer and myself could provide his report. So Bart, if I can call you up here, you can brief them on the countywide mitigation plan.
Welcome, Bart.
Good evening. Several months ago, the county was looking at the opportunity to work with the hazard mitigation plan, and that's a FEMA requirement that needs to be passed through through the state Cal OES as well as being approved by FEMA. It's a 5-year cycle, continuous cycle. We were able to secure grant funding in the amount of $70,000. As Battalion Chief Eichner has already alluded to, we had a meeting last week and we're able to select a vendor for that. The vendor has not been announced, but we have a lot of confidence in that. So we will be doing a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. It's a mouthful. And what that means is that all agencies in San Mateo County have the opportunity to participate. So it'll be an overarching plan, and then each city or municipality can add in with an annex. I spoke with the hazard mitigation specialist up at Cal OES today. The other entities that can be included in that are any government body, so water districts, fire districts, transportation districts, the harbor. Any of those agencies can also tag team into this, but they need to participate in full in the planning process. We are asking all agencies that want to participate to let me know or let Dave Pucci know, the battalion chief, by October 1st if they're going to participate. And so we do have some feedback from that, but we're also asking for the people who haven't heard, and I've reached out to them. The other component to that that's a big component are the schools. So in speaking with Victoria at the state today, she did assure me that the schools can also participate in the multi-jurisdictional plan. Because there are more than 25 school districts in San Mateo County, she said it would be beneficial if the Office of Education write one annex that would encompass all the public schools. So I've reached out to the assistant superintendent in charge of business services for the county or Office of Education and have not heard back from her, but that was today. So I was trying to do that. So it's coming together. The plan, if we project it, should be written by March. Then it is submitted to the state for approval, and then from the state it goes to FEMA for review and approval. Once it's been approved, then it comes back to the Board of Supervisors for adoption, and then it goes, the individual annexes go to each of the jurisdictions, agencies for adoption. Then we start the 5-year cycle all over again. It's much like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. So.
Better than the Bay Bridge right now. Any comments? Yes, please.
Just a question, maybe I missed something, but could you just give a little bit of color to what mitigation is, and what are some examples of how local cities might participate
Sure.
to in the planning process to mitigate these hazards?
Absolutely. Good question. So hazard mitigation deals with things that in some ways are natural disasters. So floods, fires, things like that, things that would be unique to the county. You go to the coast, and if you saw the news yesterday, there was a sizable earthquake in Chile. They were looking at the possibility of issuing a tsunami warning watch, something like that, so that the National Weather Service as well as other agencies were looking at that. So coastal communities could be affected by tsunamis. Those would be hazard issues, and what you try to do is put in place things that would mitigate the impact of the hazard to your community. You also are looking at what future development might occur. And so I know in Burlingame we're looking at some sizable developments. If you look in Redwood City, there are all these buildings that are going up around here. That can have an impact, and so you need to put those some steps into place that could address things that could occur. If you had an earthquake and all of a sudden some of these buildings come tumbling down.
I think I figured it out. It's
Okay.
it's hazard impact mitigation. It's not I was wondering how we would actually mitigate the hazard, but
Okay. So it's looking at that, and without going too far into it,
Okay.
is every year the plan has to be reviewed.
Thank you. Any
Other
other
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
For being here.
Thank you, Bart.
And our
Part 2 of Dave Pucci's presentation.
Okay.
2 more items he wanted to brief you on. One, we are both working on the integration of the Sheriff's Marine Unit and Sheriff's Cliff Rescue Unit with the fire services between law and fire to provide and improve response on the bay side and the coast side. And that's working out very well with our Marine Unit now. We have firefighters on our vessels, and we're launching the vessels much faster. And they provide a service that the normal general purpose deputy would not have, like paramedic, EMT abilities, and rescue abilities. So, and then of course the sheriff has the guns and the and patrol enforcement abilities. So it's a great pairing, and we're moving forward on the bay side, and now we're moving on the coast side with our Cliff Rescue, combining and integrating those services. So, for the same purposes. The second item. He has responded to 3 major incidents. The Mad River Complex is a strike team leader in the 6 Rivers National Forest, the Horse Fire in Humboldt County as part of the plans section, and currently the Butte Fire in Amador and Calaveras County as a strike team leader. So he's been pretty busy the last month with these fires. That's all I have for Dave Pucci's report.
Thank you. We'll now move to the hazmat update. Town Chief Thrasher.
Madam Chair and Council, thanks for the opportunity to present an update on your hazmat team. As Captain Kiernan spoke of earlier, we have been pretty busy. We've had a little slight uptick the last few months in the number of hazmat calls that we've experienced. We were a little slow at the beginning of the year. It's kind of picked up, and we're about to our normal average now. We've had just over 20 requests for service from the hazmat team. We've also been busy with some public education events. We were involved today with one at the Visa Center in Foster City. Disaster preparedness type of operation. Went very well. And then we're also implementing an entirely new revamped training program for the entire hazmat team. It's all been keeping us very busy, but it's all going very well. We did have a significant call, one of interest. No serious impact, but it was a call of interest in August that involved San Bruno Police Department. It was a transient drug lab, and they called us to help them identify some of the chemicals involved. There were some officers exposed. Nothing came of it. It was nothing too severe. But the opportunity came. We don't do drug labs on a normal basis. Those are normally handled through a task force. And in speaking with Captain Zamora, is that right? Working with Captain Zamora from the Sheriff's Office and the task force, we're looking at the opportunity of our hazmat team ramping up, maybe getting some additional training to become more involved with those drug labs as they pop up. They've been on the downslide for several years. We don't see them very often. And now we're kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence of a different type. So we look forward to that additional training and working with our partners in law enforcement on that. We are hosting a Hazardous Materials Technician Series class, which is the series of classes that you have to participate legally by federal law on a hazmat call. It's a 4-week program. We're hosting it in Belmont beginning at the end of this month, and it'll go through October. We have 3 or 4 potential new members of our team in that class, and we're very excited about that. So it'll be going on in Belmont and in Foster City as well. And lastly, I'd like to let you know that we look forward to bringing a potential new contract to you at the next meeting in January. The existing contract is up in June of 2016, and we'd like to go ahead and get started on that process. So we'll present that to you more than likely in the January meeting and move forward with that. And unless you have any questions, that's all I have for you.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, now we're going to have a drought update. Brian Mulder.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. We're still in a drought. Any questions? We do watch Alpine Creek, which is a surface water source for CSA 7, which is a county system operated for 70 connections in the community of La Honda. That surface water creek level is at 9 inches for the last 2 weeks, and that is remarkable. That is a great situation to be in. A year ago, we were looking at about 5 or 6 inches, so we are in a better position than last year. That water system that serves a portion of La Honda has just done a feasibility study on improving their water piping system. For a million years now, that system has been haunted by so many breaks because the pipes go through the redwood roots. And so they're working on getting all the leakage that happens on a regular basis and improving how the pipes can be leak-free. We are updating a website to show drought if or as the drought becomes more significant in our county, especially in the rural area in the southwest. We'll have a map that people could go to look at where the water suppliers are and how to contact them. The Drought Task Force did host a workshop for all of our op area, but it wasn't really attended that well. Maybe middle of summer, or I don't know. But we had the City of Napa water manager come down and share with us her experience in recovering from the Napa earthquake. And that was chasing a lot of leaks. And they chased probably 150 leaks twice. Because right after the earthquake, they did all the repairs. And then as the aftershocks took place, they had to change those same repairs sometimes. So it was an extraordinary presentation. And it also included a mutual aid aspect, which is called Cal Warn. And if your water company, there's Cal Water and Mid-Peninsula Water are members of a thing called Cal Warn, which is a network of water and wastewater companies that provide mutual aid when you need it. So their crews can come in with a pre-signed contract to do your water leak work after an earthquake or after a disaster. And that was the showcase of the workshop, is to be a member of WARN. And we'll be following up on that at our next meeting. The Skylonda Mutual Water Company did state their emergency situation to the county. The county replied back and asked the SFPUC to offer mutual aid assistance to Skylonda. Their water source was very poor. So what Skylonda did was contract with Cal Water in the area to interconnect their pipe to their system. And so shortly they'll be on all Cal Water system until December. And then they'll decide if Cal Water may be a natural company to take over Skylonda Mutual or another arrangement. But, lastly, the county parks are working diligently to keep public areas safe in the parks with dead trees and limbs, and they're working with the California Conservation Corps and CAL FIRE to keep areas free of those fire fuels. Are there any questions?
Any questions from Brian? Okay, seeing
Thank
none,
you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, we do.
The website that you talked about, what is your?
The website, it's not standing up right now, but it will be on the county's homepage, and it
Okay.
will be for drought information.
Great, thank you.
I don't know. We're just building it right. We're just building that web page right now.
I hope it's sooner than later.
Thank you.
Okay, right as we get into El Nino. Okay, our next item is the mass notification system update with Wayne Haas. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the council. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to update you on the current status of the new SMC alert. Just as a reminder, this is a UASI-funded project from San Francisco, Marin, Sonoma, and San Mateo counties. We're doing this project simultaneously. San Francisco and San Mateo counties are going first. We'll be going live officially tomorrow. We wanted to come and tell the council first before we rolled it out to the public. We're working closely with San Francisco's because we've taken two different approaches. San Mateo County will be releasing to the public first, while San Francisco County will be releasing to their internal county employees and city employees first. Then we'll be comparing notes over the next couple of weeks to see how the rollout actually goes. What most people want to know is, will my data be moved over? We've moved 37,000 signups from our old SMC alert to the new SMC alert system. So those folks are in the system, but we did not bring over username and passwords because those are encrypted. What will happen tomorrow is we'll be doing a press release, and then we'll be sending out essentially 37,000 emails through our new system, inviting folks that are in the system to set up a new username and password. I've sent a message today to some of you that were in the system. You may have seen that. I see the nod. One of the concerns that we've had, I'm sorry. It may have been your spam folder. One of the concerns that we have is that within the message being sent out is a link to get back to your account, and often people don't want to touch a link that may be involved within an email. So I suspect we'll have a fair amount of those folks not want to go in and update their user information, which is actually okay, because as you see on the monitors, we have a new web page for SMC Alert that we opened to the public last week. We've taken a couple of opportunities to send out some simultaneous messages through our old system and our new system over the last 10 days. I thank you all and the community for your patience, because if anything, we've sent a substantial amount of messages out for the Highway 101 closure in Burlingame. We've had lines down in Emerald Hills. There was a flooding problem today in Hillsborough, and we've used both systems to test the capability of those systems. So I invite the public to go to smcalert.info at any point. If you're not comfortable with the message that are coming out, feel free to register for a new account. We're easily to migrate all of your data from your cell phones to your email addresses, and that information will be live first thing tomorrow morning. I'd like to also thank the folks that are standing behind me or sitting behind me from the Emma Group. These are most of your group managers and most of the folks that will be sending out the messages, and I'd like to thank their support for getting the message out to the public. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
So is this rollout include the reverse 911 integration or not?
It does. So we migrated a little over 300,000 landlines, which would be both white page and yellow page data. So it includes both email, text, and the reverse. We call it reverse 911. That's not a true name. It's landlines from AT&T billing data.
Right. So the question is, so I guess you do have some cell phone information for the SMC alert, but you're not going to use that information for voice?
We have cell phone information if when somebody from the public has signed up and included their cell phone information, we can send them text messages and we can send them voice messages. That's something they need to opt in for, and then put their data in. What we don't have are purchased commercial cell phone information. What
Are we going to have a recruiting drive to get people to submit their alternate contact information like cell phones or work phones or the such?
Yes, and that's part of the public outreach we will start tomorrow. We're also doing the final stages of FEMA iPause testing, which is a push system through FEMA to wireless devices in the emergency broadcast system. I think by the end of the month we'll be operational with that. So even though we don't have all the cell phone numbers for everybody in the county, should we have an absolute crisis like we had an actual tsunami last night, we may have been able to push out that information to cell phones in the area.
And how do you control the geography of those? Is it based on area code, or is it based, do they correlate to addresses of the subscriber?
Yes to all of those. So when you sign up, you can put in your address, and we can notify you by a geographical area. You can text your zip code, and there'll be instructions on how to text your zip code into our system for a more anonymous sign up, but more of a lower geographical area. Or we can push information out through the email system too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My question was about this FEMA, this emergency thing that you said they can go to cell phones. How is that geographically?
So the way the iPod system currently works through FEMA is we push information out to a map area, and it grabs the cell sites. And if there's a phone connected to that cell site, it will then push the information out to them. What FEMA would like to do over the next couple of years is then also query your smartphone for your latitude, longitude to determine if that's the right target area. Right now, it's almost a county-wide broadcast, and I think you'll see over the next 18 to 24 months, FEMA really start to work better on that technology.
Thank you.
Terry? Oh.
I was also curious about how do you spell that iPause? Is it?
It's IPAWS, which actually stands for the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, which is a combination of wireless alerts and the emergency broadcast system.
Okay. And so they were saying that in the situation like the 101 closure, when they were desperate to keep people in their cars so they didn't get electrocuted, we could have had that area, that radius, with this new system when it's operational to notify the people on their cell phones in the cars. Is that what you're saying?
I can let the captain address the finer details of it, but right now FEMA has fairly strict policies of when we use that.
Okay.
And it definitely needs to be, life endangerment, major catastrophe, because unfortunately now, if you circle San Bruno Mountain, you're going to get folks in the East Bay that may happen to be connected to the San Bruno Mountain cell tower. It's not as exact as I think we'd like to see over the next couple of years.
I see. Well, great system.
Yes.
Yes, I do have one comment and a question. The comment is about the FEMA. About 2 years ago, I think that they tried to test it, and wherever they were testing, it came out like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was a screeching sound. So I hope that they take notes that we're in a different time zones, and if they're going to try it out, they need to be sensitive to that and be more diligent about how they, because it was quite scary, if I recall correctly, about the FEMA.
December 2012, the National Weather Service, who has access to this, pushed out a flash flood emergency.
Right.
Shortly followed behind the state, who pushed out an Amber Alert in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
I think they've learned from some of those lessons, and I think that's part of the lessons that we learned from. We're watching very closely the Butte and the Valley fires and how they're communicating with their public. I have both, obviously, fire friends up there, but I have families in both of those counties right now, and I've been monitoring some of the information that they're getting and trying to learn from those lessons.
Great. And the other question is about the SMC alert, because I know that you are doing the back system. And from everything that I learned, it's supposed to be for the users, for the residents, it's seamless. But you just said that we're asked now to verify our password and our username, and if not, we can create a new one. And how are you in the back office understand that there is going to be redundancy?
We have the ability to check for duplicates.
Okay.
So I would prefer, if I had a choice, I would prefer somebody to go to smcalert.info, register for a new account with new updated emails, new updated phone numbers, and then we can deduplicate it or unduplicate it. The system does have the ability, if you register more than once, as it sends information out, if it's already sent out to a cell phone, it's already sent out to an email address, it won't send it a second time. So I get a lot of logs that says duplicate on file. We go back through and clean that data up. What we were able to seamlessly bring over was all of the registration information that people have put in for the last 7 years, but their username and password in the old system was encrypted. So we brought their home, if they had a home address, we brought their cell phone numbers, we brought their email addresses, many of which folks have never updated in 7 years. So I really hope that folks do go to the website and put in a new account, and then we'll worry about the data duplication on our end.
Okay, so just for verification, because SMC Alert has proven to be very, very useful, and I think that we as residents all benefit from that. And so what you're asking is that you would prefer, instead of they verify their username and passwords, to establish a new one, and even though it's the same input of the cell phone numbers or the landlines, it is quiet, right?
Yes.
And you can clean it up in the
both.
back.
They can respond to the emails and the text messages that we'll be sending out tomorrow, or they can create a new account. Either one we find. We do have, and I just want to clarify, we do have the ability to push out to all of those users right now.
Great.
Regardless of what their information is.
Thank you.
Oh, we also, this system does have the ability to push out messages for the hearing impaired to TDD, TDY machines. And we've already seen some testing on that that's worked quite successfully.
And you brought the groups over as well?
Yes.
Okay.
All the CERT groups, all the ham radio groups, while those lists I think need some updating, those have all been brought up.
Terry, did you get your question answered, or was the cap supposed to answer? You got it all? Okay, great. Anybody else have a question, comment?
I would like to expand on Mr. Barrow's question. I think what you were asking, we have 37,000 people right now in the system. San Mateo County has 750,000 residents. What are we doing with the rest of our folks? I think that's what you were getting at. That's a good question. And what are we doing for our marketing? The county manager has a PIO full-time, Michelle Durand. She is preparing press releases to push this out to the county. We also will be using the Circle Star Theater signboard to advertise this, and we have our websites. Wayne has been meeting with all of the cities almost on a daily basis since he came on, conducting training. And we are pushing it out through all of the different events that we attend as well. So we are making an aggressive, honest effort because we want as many people. We did learn some challenges when we talk about the reverse 911 system called TENS. That's part of this, which is great. We learned, though, the reverse 911 comes from the white page or the 911 directory. That's only AT&T numbers. Most people nowadays have Comcast, broadband, Xfinity services that has that triple bundle package with the telephone, like myself included. I don't have an AT&T landline. Those are not included. So we have reached out to those companies to purchase the data so that we can plug that in, so we can reach all the majority of our population that doesn't have AT&T. So that's one thing we did learn. Regarding notifying people, and I'll use Terry's town as an example for the Burlingame situation, we drew, I think it's called a polygon shape on a layered map over the town of Burlingame, and we blasted out a message to all the business owners in Burlingame so they knew that the roads were closed or blocked. So we can do that. But like Wayne just said, if we were to do an emergency IPAWS, that would potentially go out to the 750,000 residents in addition to anyone that's visiting. It would hit everybody. And Redwood City once did a message, and because it's flat on this side of the hill, Alameda County got that message too, and I was getting calls from Alameda County because of the repeaters are all connected to line of sight. So we do have to be careful. If it's a 2 o'clock in the morning message like that one, that Amber Alert actually, although it was, I did receive a lot of complaints. I'm glad it went out. That was the couple that was murdered down in Southern California. The house was burnt and the young girl was kidnapped. And that Amber Alert went out, and we were able to track the suspect and find the girl alive in Northern California, actually in Oregon, I think. So because of the Amber Alert, that helped us. So we would only use it for either a presidential declaration. Last night, that 8.3 earthquake in Chile, Dawn was on tsunami watch every 2 hours for 12 hours. If we did have a tsunami, we probably would have put out an emergency alert to the entire coast side. So it's there. We're the only ones authorized per FEMA to do that, is the operational area. So if a city wanted it, they'd have to call OES, and we do it on their behalf, and then we'd be accountable to FEMA. So there are a lot of requirements, like you said, but it's definitely a better system. We can put out messages on your TV. We can attach video links and PDFs. So there's a lot of new technology that's available with this new system.
Yes, Terry?
Through the chair, just a couple other suggestions to get more people to sign up. All of the city clerks, I believe, have some form of city newsletter, and you can reach out through the City Clerks Association with a little blurb about signing up. And don't you have access countywide to Nextdoor also? Can you send out messages? Yeah, because that would be another good way to know.
That's the neighborhood watch. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's not it's just a neighborhood community thing, but you have to have special access to go through more than a few neighborhoods. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 8, which is a Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities. Nancy McGee.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. As you know, we have a lot of work going on around the schools, and as far as the hazard mitigation plan involving schools, we certainly can work with the departments on folding school plans into our work through the County Office of Education. What I wanted to update you on today is that just this last Tuesday morning, we had our 2015 launch event for the Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities and a refresh of the Big 5 school emergency protocol. We had a breakfast at the County Office of Education with over 100 people in attendance. Many police chiefs, fire chiefs, school superintendents, and other community partners. Supervisor Tissier and Supervisor Horsley and Superintendent Campbell hosted the event, and we were able to give everybody a little packet flash drive with all this year's emergency materials. And also something that may impact you later on is that there is the information sharing MOU on this flash drive that has now been officially released to all the agencies who we are asking to sign. All the documents were created and written by county council staff. They've written agency-specific MOUs that are address the laws of that particular agency in the work. And really the MOU is it's more of a general understanding that we want to all work together on behalf of youth in this community. We do not want unintended barriers to get in the way of that we understand that there are laws that every agency must follow as far as confidentiality, and that the first level of that exchanging personal data about an individual youth would require a consent form by parents, unless there was an emergency, in which there are exceptions for that. The second level of data sharing would be all about de-identified data, which is about understanding trends and identifying areas that we would need to put some resources towards to amend. So really it's all in the spirit of we all understand the laws, we agree to follow the laws, and we're not going to all step back and say, well, we can't do that, and create those barriers that don't really exist. So the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, the superintendents, HSA, probation, and all the school district superintendents have all been asked to sign. County Council did do a presentation to the city attorneys, and they were all very positive, asked good questions, so your city attorneys should be aware of this document that's circulating around, but as city council members, it may come before you. And I just want you to know that it has been officially released. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Nancy? Great event the other day. It was very well attended and very well, lots of information for us. Now, I'm sort of curious, we have this in front of us. Is this yours or is this something else?
No, I have two in my pocket. I was going to ask you some trivia questions about the 49ers if anybody
See if you
wanted
win.
one. No,
Okay.
I have two flash drives with me, so if anybody wants to grab a copy, you can get it from me. Okay?
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll now move into the Urban Shield Yellow Command exercise update. Captain Kernan.
Thank you for the reminder. Those flash drives are from me. That's the our last meeting. We had the EOP, the Emergency Operations Plan. It was a 3-ring binder.
Ah.
So that now contains the base plan, the hazard plan, which is different than the hazard mitigation plan, and also the emergency functions. I would have loved to have made binders for you, but I have to keep within my OES budget, and I didn't want to go over. So, so they're yours to keep and share. Okay, the next item, the Yellow Command and Urban Shield. This is our 9th year. This is a Department of Homeland Security federally funded training and exercise project. This year, we started off on September 11th, Friday, with an attack. It was a regional exercise, and it was an attack on the Super Bowl. So we're preparing for Super Bowl 50 with some of the threats that we've been receiving. This was to test, as Don Mattei says, we must test the system at all times. So we tested our emergency operations staff. We brought in finance, logistics, operations, and our other members. We had 61 employees. We also brought in our entire PIO staff, including city PIOs, county PIOs, and we tested a new terrorism annex that is in draft form, and how would we implement and deploy resources for San Mateo County. Marin County participated, Monterey County, San Francisco, Alameda, and Santa Clara. So it was a very well-done exercise. We had a lot of problems with our rail systems and in other areas in the other counties. And we all worked together using the new technology, information sharing technology for situational awareness and common operating picture. And you're all welcome to come to OES and see that at your convenience. Some of the new software that we're using, it's pretty cool. And it's really keeping us well informed compared to days of yesterday. That was the kickoff. Then moving into Saturday and Sunday was Urban Shield. Urban Shield is, we bring 32 SWAT teams into the San Francisco Bay. 6,000 people participated from around the nation and from other countries, including South Korea and Colombia. And we offered 32 terrorist-related scenarios. San Mateo County hosted 7 scenarios. We also had a medical checkpoint with Stanford University. San Francisco, Alameda, and Santa Clara counties also participated. We hosted an area command, and the SWAT teams were tasked with 48 hours without sleep, and they had to go through 32 scenarios with 4 medical checkpoints. It was an outstanding effort to show our resilience. I'm proud to say that San Francisco Bay Area is probably the most prepared. First responders, our EOD teams, fire departments, our search and rescue, and our search teams, hazmat teams. Everyone was involved in this. It was a multidiscipline effort. All teams were tested, and they all worked together in a multidiscipline environment. And we are head and heels over most of the states in the United States. We were impressed with one county, Travis County, Texas. Austin, Texas is very, very squared away. Aside from them, the top 10 teams are all here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So it was an excellent event, and it helped in our preparedness efforts for uncertain things that could happen in the future.
Any questions for Captain on that? Okay, keep rolling. You gonna go to item number 10? Or do you have more to add?
No, that's all. The ESC meeting minutes, I think Mayor Nagel brought this up, but now she's leaving. So it was not an item for discussion at the last meeting. You asked for some discussion if we should continue with the lengthy minutes or if we should maybe consider a more concise minutes, and you wanted that.
Well, I was suggesting more concise minutes because these are the by far the most complete minutes of any meeting I go to, and I know it must take a great deal of time to transcribe them word for word, so it's up to you.
I posed your question to the county and city managers who meet with me 1 week before this meeting to set the agenda. They like the minutes so they can keep informed, and members who do not attend the meetings or miss the meetings like the minutes. It's helpful for me when I'm setting the agenda as a reminder, but I do understand your request, and I'm sure Kathy appreciates that since she's the one who writes them, but I leave it to the council to make the decision on how you'd like to address that.
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
I would just say whatever is, and Kathy, thank you. But honestly, you have to do the work. You have to be prepared, no pun intended. So whatever best works for you is what I would suggest to continue. So whatever works for you and your staff, then I personally wouldn't want to disrupt that.
And I would agree.
Do you have a comment, Jack?
These meetings are recorded, right, and even videoed? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I agree with Terry in that these minutes are incredibly detailed, and it's nice to be able to see what you said and make sure that that is what you really said. And I certainly acquiesce to whatever works best for you, but it just seems like a lot of work, you know.
I guess the comment I would make is we just started videoing these, if I recall correctly. It's been the last couple meetings.
Yes.
And I guess the question I would ask you, and you can discuss this amongst yourself and make that decision, would it be easier to go back through the video, or is it easier to just read these and follow up? I'm sort of of the same mind. Whatever works best to be able to do the work you need to do to be informed of what we're asking for and things like that, or what was discussed so that you could follow up with whomever. Whatever works best. But now we have video. I think that does help too if you need to go back and refresh memories as well. So we'll leave that. I'm fine with leaving it up to you, the two of you and the department, as to what you think is best to help you guys out. Please.
I was just thinking for managers, going through a video would be harder. And since there's a lot of legal stuff involved in this, I would think that if they requested it, I think I would be cautious to make sure that managers and city attorneys were comfortable if you went away from it.
Okay, whatever. I mean, it's been working. Sorry, Mary, Kathy. I'll give you a new name every meeting. How's that? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Next one will be the El Nino flood season update. Lieutenant Kunkel. How are
Good
you?
evening, Madam Chair, Council. My name is Paul Kunkel. I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office, and I am the new director of your OES. As we all know, it's projected we're going to have a very heavy flood season this year. In anticipation of that, OES has been very hard at work. We've held 2 high-level meetings. The first one was with department heads from the county and some representation from the Board of Supervisors. And we've also held a meeting with representatives from the county manager's office. Our flood annex is in progress and almost done. Our meter project is still in progress for the flood meters for the creeks. We are members of a MAC, which is a multi-agency coordination systems group for the San Francisco Creek that particularly affects the city of Menlo Park, Palo Alto, and East Palo Alto. So we've been working with them and meeting with them to help plan and prepare and mitigate flooding there. We are holding meetings, drills, and exercises all over, including Half Moon Bay, on the coast, in Belmont, North Fair Oaks, to prepare people and get people ready for the potential of them to evacuate, things they should have on hand, and how they should react during a potential flooding event. We've been working very closely with County DPW, and they are hard at work. They have secured 40,000 sandbags, which is far more than they do generally per year. When the flood season starts, they're actually going to pre-fill sandbags and pre-position many of them, so it's easier access so people can get them a little more quickly. We are working with Caltrans, and Caltrans is hard at work cutting back what they can and clearing their storm drains and basins, much like our DPW is. And they're also working on in Belmont, there's a particular issue with pipes that go under 101 out to the sloughs that helped cause the problems in Belmont last year. So Caltrans is working on fixing those as well. We're also waiting on a contract that's in progress with the California Conservation Corps.
They were helpful last year during the San Francisco Creek flooding, and this contract will enable us to essentially go to the front of the line during a mass flooding event. When we call them, we won't just be put on a list. We'll go to the front of the line, so we'll get them to come to San Mateo County and assist first. So we're doing our best to diligently prepare. We have things on our website. We're doing a lot of outreach, and hopefully it won't happen, but if it does, we're doing our best to prepare our county.
Lieutenant, can I ask you if you could take a look at, we've had an issue up in the North County, and it's not going to go away because it deals with the size of the pipes and the flow out to the bay, but in Broadmoor, every single year, even in a small rain, it gets terribly flooded. And I was just wondering, is there anything between yourselves and DPW that could be planned ahead of time to either bring pumps in so that, once you wait till you have the flood, it's pretty tough to deal with it. If you can get to it ahead of time, it may not be the be-all, end-all. We're dealing with the Corps of Engineers. They've decided it's in their jurisdiction, not the Regional Water Control Board. So it makes it harder because they're saying these are waters of the U.S. So now, it's not going to get resolved immediately. It certainly won't get it resolved in this season. And even to fix it when it does, it's about $100 million or more. So, every year this happens. Even last year when we hardly had any rain, it's still flooded. So if we're expecting El Nino, these apartments there are flooded to the point it ruins all of their water heaters, everything. And it's just something I'd like us to be proactive if we can be, as best we can be. And there's a lot of people affected by this up there, and it happens every single year.
We will absolutely look at that, and I believe one of my district coordinators, Brian Mulver, can address that.
Yes, that issue that you mentioned in Broadmoor, I think it's 89th or 90th Street, that would be a good hazard mitigation project to put in for a grant to take care of that. That is a very complex storm drain system that comes, and there's many miles of pipe and infrastructure that go along with that. And it's also shared with Daly City and maybe another
Daly
city.
And you've got the agencies, and it's a nightmare.
Right.
But they've been working on it for a long time, and now a new agency has decided to take jurisdiction, which makes it even harder. But, until that can happen, maybe we put this plan together. It's definitely going to need a grant. There's no question. $100 million. I don't know that anybody has that sitting around.
I'll make sure it's one of the projects in the hazard mitigation plan.
All right, I appreciate that.
Our Public Works Director, Jim Porter, I've heard him talk about the Daly City problem. So that's something we could address with our DPW as well, and that they'd probably be the lead on that project.
Okay. Thank you. Terry, did you have a question?
Just a quick question. What's the earliest that you anticipate El Nino coming, if it comes?
Well, I am not a meteorologist, and we have been working with NOAA. I think the earliest heavy rains they're anticipating is October. I believe that when they think it's going to be the heaviest is November, December. But again, who knows? I mean, there are some models that suggest Southern and Central California will get hit harder than Northern California. So it's kind of hard to predict. So with that in mind, we're doing our best to prepare. So if indeed our area does get hit, we're in a good position to hopefully deal with it and keep our people safe.
And I've heard that we have to watch the trees carefully too because they're so dry from the drought. So be prepared, right? Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions for Lieutenant? You're going to take the next one too, Super Bowl 50?
Yes,
You're pretty busy here.
Okay, so Super Bowl 50 is going to be played on February 7th, 2016. It's rather interesting because the host city is San Francisco. The game is going to be played at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, and we are in the middle. It's kind of a combination with the last topic. This Santa Clara County OES did a survey of the last 70 years, and they found their 4 highest days per year of rainfall were between February 6th and February 10th. Some years they got their entirety of their projected rainfall that year on those 4 days. And obviously with the game being on the 7th, that's a concern for everyone. So it should be interesting. We in San Mateo County have worked hard. We're working with our partners in San Francisco and Santa Clara. We provided a high-level briefing for city and county department managers, and we brought in people from San Francisco Department of Emergency Management, Santa Clara County OES, and the actual city of Santa Clara. We have the incident commander for Santa Clara PD came and provided a briefing as well. It was really well attended. People from law, fire, EMS, HSA, airports, the harbor, the coroner were in attendance. So it was a very good,
high-level briefing, and from that, we're developing San Mateo County planning teams. So we're going to have a planning team for police, fire, and communications. We'll have one for EMS and hospitals, one for transportation, Caltrains, BART, air, and the harbor, and one for emergency managers. We are now officially part of 5 Super Bowl subcommittees with the City of Santa Clara's Super Bowl planning. We're part of the transit, aviation, marine, staffing, and communications committees, and we're actively involved in there. And it's neat because a lot of what we do in OES is disaster preparedness, and sometimes we're preparing for something we don't know if it's coming. Well, this particular event, what we're doing now is event-driven, which is fantastic. So it's forced us together. So now, we know we have partners in San Francisco. We know we have partners in Alameda and Santa Clara. But this coming event has really forced us to come together and really help develop relationships that I think will last into the long term and help with whatever event comes our way. We're developing a concept of operations plan, which is like an overall plan for what we intend to do as a county. And within that concept of operations plans, there'll be individual plans for different groups to assess things. The concept of operations essentially is the umbrella over the other plans that ties everything together. We will have our EOC open that day. We intend to be fully staffed, excuse me, and prepared for a safe event. And we want to do this without disrupting or impeding normal operations, which is very important to us. So we don't want to disrupt normal law, fire, or EMS operations as we dedicate resources to that event. And I think we'll be able to do that. As part of this, we've worked with a number of groups. We've actually reached out and attended Mavericks' first meeting, and we asked them, and they're going to black out the Super Bowl weekend as a potential date for Mavericks, just because there's no way we could dedicate law enforcement and fire resources to both events. So they were very cooperative in that, and we appreciate that. It's anticipated as many as 1.7 million people will come into our area during that week. It's not just the day of the Super Bowl, it's the week before as well. So it's going to be a busy week in this area. And our main intention is to address crime, terror, and disruptive events. And some of the crime we're really looking to mitigate and go after are things like human trafficking, because with a large event like this, with people from all over the world, unfortunately it attracts that kind of event. So we have people working on that. And I think it's going to be a fantastic event. It's been really good for our county so far. If you will indulge me for a second, this is Captain Kernan's last meeting. He has been our division captain for the last 3 years, and I wanted to publicly thank him for his leadership, his innovation, and his drive. He has championed our cause and done a great deal for emergency services in San Mateo County, and I'd like to thank him publicly for that. I appreciate you indulging with the sidebar, and I'll take any questions on the Super Bowl now.
Any questions, Lieutenant? Good work. I know it's a lot of work. I've talked to quite a few of you, and it's quite intense, so keep up
Yes,
the
but
good work.
we enjoy it, and it's good stuff. Thank you.
Before I introduce item number 13, I was going to call Jeff up because this is his last meeting, as he's joined the rest of the ranks here as the last meeting. He's not leaving the department, but he's leaving OES. And I want to give him a chance to say a few words before he introduces Captain Zamora.
Thank you, Supervisor Tissier. I'd like to thank you, Supervisor Tissier, and members of the council for your leadership and support over the last 3 years that I've been your OES director. I really appreciate that. I'd also like to thank County Manager John Malpe and our city managers who have supported and guided me in setting the agenda, and lots of questions that I have. I'm calling them often, and I really appreciated that. And I'd like to thank my staff as well for all the hard work that we've had and the many long hours and the many projects that we've had, especially the last few years. We've been very ambitious. As Mark Weiss, my predecessor, said, we've turned the ship with the culture of the county and with the city governments, and now we're driving forward. And that was not an easy thing for anyone to do. When I first started, I had 3 grand jury reports on my desk. One for OES, some issues that needed to be addressed. One for San Bruno, and one for the status of our levies and working with the cities. And none of those were easy. So that was my welcome package. We've come a long ways. Since then, we've improved our levies, and we're recognized by FEMA now. Even though they continue to change our floodplains and our flood insurance, that's a continual thing. We have a new JPA recognized by the state now, so that was a great accomplishment. We have an improved relationship with the San Francisco Airport. We have the creation of the Coastside District Coordinator, which has solved many of our problems. Thank you to Nick for that. And we have new opportunities now with the cities of Millbrae and San Carlos, contracting with emergency management services with them through OES in the near future. We've created the Emergency Managers Association. Prior to that, it was the Emergency Coordinators, and that group has increased tenfold since then. I'd like to thank the association for their leadership by representing their cities as well. So thank you to you guys back there. We have improved our hazmat team, and we improved our disaster preparedness day, hosting our 10th annual preparedness day this year, and it was a success. We created the finance working group, and we've increased our reserve fund. We have an information sharing statement of understanding with the Red Cross. Prior to this, we didn't, and that was presented some challenges. We have had a few disaster proclamations, one with the EPA floods in 2012 and another with the countywide floods last December. We've had many significant urban and wildland fires. We had the Asiana airplane crash. Several mutual aid deployments in 3 different counties. I'd like to personally recognize not just Dave Pucci, but Ken Anderson, who's here tonight, Brian Mulver, for also deploying and helping those counties in their time of need. We learned that Lake County, who is dying right now with what's happening up there, has 1 emergency manager. They are hurting, and they are asking us for web EOC, PIOs, section chiefs for all the AOC section positions, and as our EMA president just stated, that we're doing our best as ourselves, Santa Clara, Napa, Solano, Alameda, to help them. Also, law enforcement mutual aid, they're having a hard time with looting for the evacuees in both Amador, Calaveras, and Lake counties. So a big concern and constant request for law enforcement mutual aid, which we've been supporting. This is the most in the history of San Mateo County. We have 4 strike teams deployed right now, over 20 engines, and several other firefighters on overhead watch. It's the most we've ever had, and they're still out there. Dave Pucci was supposed to come home this morning. I called him, and he got sent back out to the fire line. So he's earning his money this month for sure. The countywide DPW MOU for cities to support each other, that was a big accomplishment for all of us, and that'll continue to help throughout this flood season. We launched the Safe Schools Summit and the creation of the Big 5 protocol, much thanks to Nancy for her leadership and constant efforts with that project. And we also have a vulnerable population coordinator. Now, we've identified over 150,000 persons in our county who fall into the vulnerable population category, whether it's infants, elderly, mentally ill, or disabled, or under some type of medical care that we need to help during emergencies. We wrote a new emergency operations plan, which you have now. We have a new SMC alert, which Wayne just told you about. We have improved relations with fire, EMS, and public health. We have increased our operational area EOC capacity and our countywide exercises working with the cities. We are now recognized as a key stakeholder in regional projects and funding opportunities. We often get what we ask for at the regional level with the state and federal grants, and that's been paid a lot of dividends to all of our disciplines here back in the county. So next steps, the OES budget, we've balanced it the last 3 years. That's by no accident what I've been doing. I've been stealing from the sheriff's budget to make it so that I'm clean for you and for my finance team, so they don't sweat too much in front of you for the April hearing. However, I did meet with the sheriff and my finance director, and I said maybe it's time we audited the OES budget. The sheriff's been supplementing all of our office supplies, Nick's overtime on the coast. A lot of our additional services provided is not coming from our budget. And I have to do the dance every year in front of the sheriff, so I don't have to do it in front of you. But I think that moving forward, I ask that we do audit our budget just so we know what the true numbers are and what the true costs are for OES. So come April, we may have different numbers for you. I don't think it's going to be great, but just something so that it's cleaner back at the home shop, so I'm not taking from the volunteer services, because that's where I've been taking it from. And I don't think it's fair to our volunteers who don't get enough as they deserve. So having said that, it's my pleasure. It's been an honor to serve you. It's been challenging and frustrating, but I did learn probably the most I've ever learned in my career. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Phase 2. Under new leadership, a driven, accomplished, and efficient leader, your new Homeland Security Captain, Alma Zamora.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. I obviously have some very big shoes to fill. I welcome the challenge and I look forward to it. Again, my name is Alma Zamora. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office. I've been here 9 years now. I started my law enforcement career in San Mateo County in 1992 at a local police department, and I currently oversee the countywide narcotic task force and vehicle theft task force. For the past month and a half, about maybe a little bit longer than that, I've been working side by side with Captain Kernan, transitioning into my new position. I'm excited about it, and I look forward to it. And the official hand of keys takes effect October 4th. I look forward to working with this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. I hope you can dance better than he does, because we need that money. And Jeff, I just want to say you've been terrific. You've done a great job these past 3 years. It's been a pleasure working with you on so many of the things you mentioned, including the safe schools. And you've been very determined to make sure everything worked, and you're very prompt in getting back to us on all the issues we've talked about. And you're leaving us in very good hands. And you did a great job. And Alma, we look forward to having you at the helm now, and we look forward to moving forward. So thank you both. Any comments, questions? Yes, Terry, please.
We are really going to miss you. You've done a great job. You've really been amazing. And I think we've all bragged about all the accomplishments that you have made as a team, and, really been great. Thank you.
Real quick, and Terry's correct, Captain. One thing that I've admired also is that your heart and your passion is here. And I've seen it during the meetings and after the meetings as far as supporting this body and the various cities. And I don't just say that lightly, because not everybody gets to hear that, but I truly have seen it firsthand, and you've always had our back, shall we say, and have supported us along the way. And so you'll be missed, but you've done a great job. Thank you.
Yes, Sue.
We are very safe and we can sleep at night.
All right, very good. Well, nice transition, and we'll all try to work as hard as we can to keep moving forward. We'll now have our Red Cross update. Is Isabel? No. Oh, they may be, okay. Well, we'll give them a pass if they're in okay, well, bless them. Public comment, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address this group? Seeing no one rushing to the podium, we'll move to announcements. Are there any announcements by members of the board here? Seeing none, we will adjourn, and our next meeting will be Thursday, January 21st. It's hard to believe we're talking about a new year already. Oh my goodness. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate all the hard work.